A worried wife when her husband suddenly goes missing. He was always reliable, never left without telling her. The fact that he didn't answer his phone made her sure something was terribly wrong. He would never leave her, unless something horrific had happened. Stepping into the apartment, a strong smell of bleach hit her nose. Everything was in disarray, out of place. And then, when a body turned up, the police had to dig deeper into the investigation right near their home. The story of Mr. Lazy was her finest work, but did it have anything to do with the case? The relationship between the four of them was far from peaceful. As evidence gradually surfaced, the suspect was cornered, forced to give answers. The gruesome details of the victim's final moments came to light. He never anticipated the sudden attack of a samurai sword raised in the dark. He thought he could judge who was good and who was bad, but it turned out he was the one eliminated in the most brutal way. On the night of April 21, 2008, in the small town of Stuart, Florida, the police received an urgent call from Kristen Jensen, 47 years old. She frantically reported that her husband, Gerald Jerry Jensen, had gone missing. Kristen had just gone through a rehabilitation program at the VA hospital. She had arranged for Jerry to pick her up on the 20 Honest, but when she was discharged, she repeatedly called his phone only to hear the voicemail. This was not normal. Jerry was a reliable man, never ignored his wife like this. Kristen's intuition told her that something was terribly wrong. Returning home at 5:30 p.m., Kristen found no sign of Jerry, but her daughter Nicole. Her boyfriend, Chris Tomlinson, and their newborn were there. Nicole and Chris said that the night before, Jerry had a heated argument with someone on the phone, and they were worried he would wake the baby, so they went to the library to use the Wi-Fi. When they returned, Jerry had vanished. Initially, Kristen thought her husband simply forgot to pick her up. But then, a series of strange details sent a chill down her spine. Jerry's car was still there, his keys still in the house, his clothes, his phone, all untouched. More importantly, there was a strong smell of bleach when she walked into the house. Looking around, Kristen noticed that the bedroom door was gone, but the bathroom door was still intact. Feeling an intense sense of unease, she immediately called the police to report her husband missing and stated that something terrible had happened. Jerry Jensen was born on November 6, 1959, into a large family with 7 siblings. He made a living as an electrician, but life was not always easy. Jerry's first marriage ended in divorce, and he gradually became accustomed to the life of a divorced man. Everything changed when Jerry had a serious accident that broke his neck. Since then, he became reliant on painkillers to manage his chronic pain. It was during this time that he met Nicole Thornhill, a divorced mother of 3, who also struggled with addiction. Their shared experiences brought them closer. Together, they decided to undergo rehab, hoping to turn their lives around. After spending time together, they married, believing that love and mutual support would help them overcome any difficulties. However, despite Kristen's efforts to recover, the instability in their home left its mark, especially on Kristen's eldest daughter, Nicole. Nicole grew up in a chaotic environment and was soon sent to live with her father. This strained the relationship between mother and daughter for many years. 4 years after Kristen and Jerry's marriage, Nicole, now 18, reached out to her mother to reconnect. She was about to graduate from high school, but when her father lost his job, Nicole was forced to move back in with her mother and Jerry. Not long after moving in, Nicole met Chris Tomlinson on a social media site. Chris, in his early 20s, was stationed in Germany while serving in the military. Their online relationship quickly became serious, and they were eager to be together. At the end of 2006, Chris decided to fly to the U.S. to meet Nicole for the first time. Just 8 months later, Nicole, then 18, surprised everyone by announcing she would move to California to live with Chris, who was 23. Though taken aback by their daughter's decision, Jerry and Kristen did not try to stop her. After moving to California, Nicole and Chris quickly faced the harsh realities of life. They struggled to make ends meet, and then unexpected news came. Nicole was pregnant. At 18 years old, unmarried, and completely unprepared to become a mother, Nicole was panicked, not knowing what to do. When money ran out, and there was nowhere else to go, they were forced to return to live with Kristen and Jerry. Kristen was overjoyed at the birth of her first grandchild, but that joy was short-lived. Just 6 weeks after the baby was born, Kristen had to return to the rehab center for 4 days. Even so, Jerry was always by her side. He visited her every day, and they had planned for him to pick her up when she was discharged. However, when Kristen was released, Jerry did not appear. At first, she tried calling him, but only got the ringing and voicemail. A sense of unease overwhelmed her. Jerry had never broken a promise, especially to her. She immediately contacted the police, but since Jerry had been missing for less than 24 hours, they didn't consider it a serious missing persons case. But Kristen was different. She was sure something terrible had happened. Jerry's keys, phone, clothes, all his belongings were still at home. He couldn't have disappeared without leaving a trace. The question was, if Jerry didn't leave on his own, what had really happened to him? After Kristen Jensen reported her husband missing for over 48 hours, the Stewart, Florida police began searching for traces of Jerry Jensen, 48. According to the testimony of Kristen's daughter and her boyfriend, Jerry had disappeared on the night of April 20 after receiving a mysterious phone call. In an effort to determine whether Jerry had relapsed, investigators asked Kristen if he had confided in anyone. She suggested they talk to Kevin, one of Jerry's closest friends. When questioned, Kevin confirmed that he had spoken with Jerry just 1 day before he went missing. According to Kevin, the biggest issue in Jerry's life was not drugs, but the stress within the family. Jerry had complained that living with Kristen was becoming suffocating, largely due to her daughter's boyfriend, Chris. He was unemployed, refused to work, and had become a burden on the household. This led the police to form an important theory. Could family pressures have pushed Jerry into relapse? When the police followed Kristen on April 25, she admitted that Jerry had started using painkillers again. However, when they checked, they found that the bottle still contained many unused pills, a clear sign that he hadn't disappeared to seek more drugs. Another thing was discovered during her search of the house. The bathroom door had been broken. When she asked Nicole and Chris what had happened, they thought it was something Jerry had done in a fit of rage. The police released Kristen and asked her to stay in touch with any additional information. But investigators could not take any significant steps until more evidence surfaced. Less than a week after Jerry Jensen was reported missing on April 25, 2008, police received a call from Southwest County authorities. A body had just been found at a landfill on Jonah Road. The discoverer was a bulldozer operator who, while working as usual, unexpectedly saw a human arm protruding from the trash pile. The body still had some identifying marks, including tattoos, which helped investigators quickly gather clues. They took the body to the medical examiner's office for fingerprint testing. The results confirmed the victim was Gerald Jensen. Police immediately returned to meet Kristen, Nicole, and Chris to gather more information. When Kristen was informed of her husband's death, she was shocked and panicked. However, since she was in a rehabilitation center at the time Jerry died, the police excluded her from the list of suspects. Now suspicion shifted to the remaining family members. Kristen revealed an important detail. She had once suspected Chris, Nicole's boyfriend. According to her, Chris claimed he had just returned from military service, but never showed her any documents to prove it. Meanwhile, Nicole and Chris provided an ambiguous testimony. They claimed that on the night Jerry disappeared, he received an angry phone call and then ran into the bedroom as if hiding from someone. Then suddenly the bedroom door was kicked down and a violent attack took place. Who called Jerry on that fateful night? And what really happened behind the bedroom door? While the police interrogated the family, Detective Gerwin was working to obtain a warrant to search Gerald Jensen's mobile phone. The most important thing at that moment was to identify who called Jerry. the night he went missing. Once the necessary information was obtained, the investigators brought Nicole and Chris into the interrogation room, starting with Nicole. Knowing that the police had uncovered the truth, Nicole Thornhill decided to confess. She admitted that both she and her boyfriend, Chris Tomlinson, were not getting along with her stepfather, and money could be part of the reason. Initially, they planned to drug Jerry to stage a suicide. But when this plan failed, they turned to a more brutal method, and Kristen's time in rehab provided the perfect opportunity to strike. Nicole testified that around 7 a.m., while Gerald was still sleeping, Chris suddenly attacked him with a samurai sword. Nicole was instructed by Chris to take the baby outside. When she returned, Chris told her, "Jerry is dead." When investigators asked about the sword, Nicole stated it was still under the bed. She also described how they handled the body. They wrapped Gerald in a tarp, then wrapped a blanket from her mother's bed around him before placing the body in the bathtub. After that, they cleaned the bathroom, hallway, and threw all the evidence into the trash. The police immediately went to the apartment to verify Nicole's testimony. Indeed, they found a sword set under the bed, along with suspicious traces in the kitchen. A bottle of tequila with a layer of white powder at the bottom was actually crushed medication. A partially consumed carton of milk also showed signs of being drugged. Notably, police found a receipt from Walmart recorded on April 22, one day after Jerry was murdered. Confronted with this new evidence, Nicole could no longer deny it. Nicole Thornhill has just confessed to the horrific crime. She and her boyfriend, Chris Tomlinson, had conspired to murder her stepfather, Gerald Jensen. But what is even more frightening is that they also intended to kill her mother, Kristen. According to their distorted belief, anyone who uses drugs does not deserve to live, and they did not want people like that around their child. After concluding the interrogation with Nicole, the investigators moved on to Chris. Unaware that Nicole had confessed everything, Chris stuck to a completely different story. But when the police informed him that they had found Jerry's body, Chris's attitude changed dramatically. And when he learned about Nicole's confession, he broke down. Finally, Chris admitted, "We drugged his drink. When he went into the bedroom, he started screaming as if ready to fight. Instinctively, I grabbed a weapon. He charged at me. I kicked him down the hall, but he kept coming at me. I tried to break free, and in the end I stabbed him." Chris also admitted that they initially planned to poison Jerry. If Kristen had not been in the VA rehab center at that time, she might have been the next victim. With 2 confessions and a pile of evidence collected, the prosecutors believed this would be an easy case to close. But just 6 days after being arrested, Nicole made everything much more complicated. Nicole Thornhill had initially confessed, dragging her boyfriend Chris Tomlinson into the plot to murder her stepfather, Gerald Jensen. She even admitted that they had planned to kill her mother, Kristen, as well. But now, after being arrested, Nicole suddenly changed her statement. She claimed she was the victim, that Chris had controlled her, and that she did everything out of fear of him. The problem was that Nicole wasn't even present when the murder occurred. But could that be enough to declare her innocent? Under the law, if she had planned and assisted Chris before or after the crime, she could still be convicted of murder. On May 18, 2010, the trial for Chris Tomlinson began, with the defense arguing self-defense. However, the jury took only 3 hours to reach a verdict. Chris Tomlinson was convicted of first-degree murder. In Florida, a first-degree murder conviction means a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The judge immediately sentenced Chris to life in prison, plus an additional 60 years. A month later, Nicole Thornhill was sentenced. However, a surprising witness appeared, calling for leniency on her behalf, her mother, Kristen. After hearing Kristen's plea, the judge decided not to sentence Nicole to life in prison, but she was sentenced to 50 years in prison. Although justice was served, nothing could bring Jerry back. He had paid the ultimate price with his life. Kristen Jensen passed away in 2020, but before her death, she had tried to mend her relationship with her daughter. Though it was too late,